today, I see a light that has come on, and that light is waking up people, young people, all races of people.
Henderson, thank you very much for joining me. You are quite an interesting person. You have a first-hand historical perspective that I think gives us an interesting insight and a good teaching moments to my generation that we're going through currently our own kind of civil rights struggle, and you have obviously a very unique take on all of this. So just give us some of your background on how you started in all of this and what you remember.
Okay, well, we'll have a conversation here. I am Joyce Henderson, and I am a product of Dungey High School. I grew up in Spencer, Oklahoma, in the Green Pastures community, and I had the opportunity to go to the same grade school, junior high, high school, where my parents graduated from.
Oh, wow.
And they both graduated from Dungey School. So that's historical in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents are still living. My father's 94 years old, and my mother is 93 years old.
Wow.
And I have 3 siblings, sisters, and all 4 of us graduated from Dungey.
Wow.
After my graduation from high school, I attended Langston University. Again, all 4 of us, my siblings, graduated from Langston University. My career began in education following my graduation, meaning I had the opportunity to go back to my high school and teach history at Dungey School. I was a high school history teacher. I got into history because of my teacher at Dungey being Clara Luper. Mm-hmm. And everybody knows that name, but she taught history at Dungey School for many, many years. And if it had not been for her guidance, her teachings, many of us don't know where we would be today. So I'm very proud to say I'm a product of Dungey School, Spencer, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And not only did I have the opportunity to go back to my high school to teach, I had the opportunity to go back to my community, meaning Star Spencer High School, and become the principal of that school. So with me, I feel like I've had many historical events to make me feel proud, and to know that my foundation took place in Spencer gives me more pride. Mm-hmm. So that kind of gives you an idea, at least from my educational point of view, where I've been and where I've come from. Now, my career started, as I said, as a teacher. Mm-hmm. And then from being a teacher, I became an administrator. Being an administrator, meaning I had the opportunity to be a high school principal for about 20 years in the Oklahoma City Public School System. And I retired from the Oklahoma City Public School System after serving 10 years on the superintendent senior cabinet in 2006. And I had 37 years of education experience at that time. After graduating or after retirement, it didn't mean I stopped doing anything. My life continued with doing more volunteer work and, of course, a lot of work with young people, because I was on a speakers bureau and I had the opportunity to go into many schools to share my experiences. Now let's go back to why I'm proud that I had Clara Luper as a teacher. As a teacher, she introduced us to the NAACP Youth Council, and she invited all of us to get involved, become involved. And she was, at that time, just my teacher. But when she was not in the classroom, she was fighting the fight. And so many of us accepted the invitation to join the NAACP Youth Council. And when we did that, we became participants in the sit-in movement. I started in late junior high school and, of course, all of my high school years sit-in movement. I was not one of the original 13. I came on board after that. But because of Clara Luper's leadership, I had the opportunity to experience so much because of her. And I take great pride in saying the relationship was priceless. Okay, that's a summary of it.
That's a fantastic start. So could you kind of describe what it was like, the sit-ins? Because, I mean, as far as I know, it was all students that she was leading into the sit-ins, and she kind of briefed you guys on how to behave and what to do in case things got hectic.
Right. The first sit-in occurred August 19, 1958. And, of course, coming up August, we will celebrate the 62nd year of the sit-in march here in Oklahoma City. We take great pride in letting the world know that really the first long-lasting sit-in took place in Oklahoma City. And it took place here. Many people, if you're looking at history, you're thinking that it happened in Greensboro or some other city. But Oklahoma City started in 1958, and you look at other dates of other sit-ins to see that we were among the first to have a nonviolent sit-in movement here in Oklahoma City. So at any rate, with that, I will say we opened doors, but those doors were not open overnight. The first sit-in took place at Pat's Drug Store, and of course, under the leadership of Clara Luper. You were not a participant in that movement unless you were able to follow rules and regulations. And if you were not able to do that, you could not participate in the sit-in movement. We had meetings on Saturday mornings at Calvary Baptist Church. And at that meeting, under her leadership, we were told what our mission was going to be and how we were to act. And she gave us, so to speak, our agenda for that day. And at one time, I became the song leader of the NAACP Youth Council. She was my cheerleading sponsor in high school. So many of the yells that we did in high school, you could change the words, and make them appropriate for the sit-in movement. So I had that opportunity to share those songs from my high school, changing the words. For an example, if you were singing Victory, I said B, I said B-I, well, I said freedom, I said F, I said F-R-F-R-E, and we would do our freedom songs and give me that old freedom spirit. So there were so many things we did with the songs to get us ready for the sit-ins. And of course, getting our instructions from our leader. We were very obedient, and I tell people, very obedient children under the leadership of Clara Luper. Like I said, if you were not going to obey rules and regulations, you could not participate, and we were obedient. So with that, I can tell you my foundation as a person. I give credit to all of the experiences I had with the sit-in movement, because you had to be disciplined. You had to be obedient. You had to know how to follow instructions to the point, whether you agreed with them or not, you were having to pay attention and follow instructions. So at any rate, we learned early on the importance of working together as a group. Nothing you did as an individual. We did everything as a group. And there's a reason young people were the ones doing the sit-in. One being because we were obedient. If we were being abused, we did not retaliate. We did not hit back. If someone kicked you, you didn't kick back. If you were using adults, I if someone kicked you while you were picketing, as an adult, you were ready to hit the person who kicked you. So we had, there was an advantage using young people because of that word, or you hear that phrase, turn the other cheek. We learned how to turn the other cheek. And we did that because we knew that we were to be nonviolent. And if you were going to be violent, you could not be a part of this movement.
Absolutely. So, you're bringing up the nonviolence, which was such an important tool for the movement. Can you tell us about your memories of when you saw Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech?
I love to share that experience because so many young people, they've heard the speech, they have seen it on television, they've heard it on the radio, but when you find someone who was actually at that event, it's an eye-opener for young people. So yes, I was there. Again, Clara Lupa took 2 buses from Oklahoma City, and many of us, being young people, had the opportunity to be on one of those buses. And when I went to Washington, D.C., although we knew we were going to the March on Washington, and that took place August 28, 1963, I had no idea how many people would be there. I knew we were going to a march, but I didn't know I would be part of thousands and thousands of people marching on the Capitol at that time. And I had the opportunity to go back 50 years later to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington.
Wow.
But I can tell you, when we were a part of that event, and to hear Dr. Martin Luther King deliver his speech, and I tell young people, that was not the speech he planned to give. A lady on the stage, one of my favorite gospel singers by the name of Mahalia Jackson, and you can hear it in one of the historical documentary films, saying, "Do I have a dream speech, Martin? Do I have a dream?" And he moved his paper over because he had given the "I Have a Dream" speech at another event weeks earlier. And he started into the "I Have a Dream" speech. And of course, it's history, that speech. I tell people, back then, I heard the speech, but after his assassination, I understood the words of the speech. And I tell many times, you can hear something, but you don't understand something until later on in life. And that speech was one, we knew he delivered a speech, "I Have a Dream," but the speech and its title didn't really resonate with people until after his death. And in 1968, you kept hearing "I Have a Dream," and you can hear "I Have a Dream" today and still hear something you hadn't heard before. And the meaning of the speech changes as you get older. As you get older, the words have different meaning. Once you become a young adult, once you become a mother, once you become a grandmother, the words of "I Have a Dream" speech, those words give you a different perspective on life. It gives you a different meaning of what was his dream. We all know now what his dream was. And that dream was equality, not for one race of people, but for all races of people. He wanted his kids to be treated equal, just like we all want that for our children. So the "I Have a Dream" experience, and going to Washington, D.C. in 1963, I was 16 years old. That experience was priceless.
Absolutely, I bet, yeah. That Martin Luther King, as a thinker, as a speaker, as a leader, I think he's one of those immortal American figures that, is always relevant. Today, with my generation, with Hispanics, the dreamers, right, we're still living his mission. We're still, trying to fulfill
and the dream hasn't been, we're still trying to fulfill the dream. And that to me, although it happened 50 plus years ago, we're still discussing those same issues.
Mm-hmm.
But for today, I see a light that has come on. And that light is waking up people, young people, all races of people, wealthy people, poor people.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter today what I'm observing. There is a light that has come on. And that song that says, "Wake up, everybody," I feel like we're waking up. And we're waking up in a positive manner.
Mm-hmm.
I know there are criticisms about the destruction that has taken place with many of the marches that have taken place. But the theme of what's going on, we just want to be treated like human beings. Not like second-class citizens, but like human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I am inspired to see that we're waking up. It took some deaths, and if you look at history, and you asked the question once, what is history? History, past events. What have we experienced in the past? Well, when you start looking at what we've experienced in the past, you are still having to deal with some of those past events in our present events. But my philosophy as a former history teacher, know your history. Know your history. Know what has happened in the past so you can understand what's happening in the present. And then we can do better in the future. So that has been my plea. That's been my philosophy. And for young people, don't take what you have now for granted. Mm-hmm. Know your history so you can appreciate it. You know, it's one thing I'm always saying, I'm so glad that we are not all alike. Mm. There is a reason why I'm Joyce Henderson and you're Mr. Gonzalez. You know, there's a reason we're different. Mm. And it doesn't mean anything except from a religious point of view, we were not meant to be alike. We were meant to be a rainbow. And everybody knows a rainbow is a pretty picture to see. So when you look at all of us here in the United States of America, a pretty picture. Let us respect each other for who we are. So at any rate, it wasn't meant for us all to be together. And anytime you find yourself feeling as though you are superior to one, there's something wrong with that picture. Mm-hmm. And if you feel superior because you don't like somebody because of the color of their skin, then we need to stop and think, who had something to do with the color of his or her skin? Mm-hmm. Not any one of us. So let's stop and think about some things.
Right, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Very well said, very well spoken. So what about our generation gives you the most hope? What do you think are the biggest signs of progress being made over the course of history?
I like to first say that what we did back in the late 50s and the 60s, I feel like it was a template for what you all are doing now. Mm. You experienced, you have seen, you've heard about the city-in movement. Mm-hmm. What is taking place today, to me, is an extension of all of that. You want to change what is wrong with America. That's what we were all about. We wanted to change what was wrong with America. So I'm inspired because young people see inequality, and they're not just sitting, they are doing something about it. Mm-hmm. So my hat's off to all of the young people I see getting involved so that they can make a change for the better. Mm-hmm. Not for the worse, but for the better. And my hat's off to them.
Right, absolutely. I think one thing that is kind of underpinning the current unrest and the protests is that we're discovering that there are deeper layers to the problems of civil rights, right? So in your generation's era, it was pretty clear to see, Jim Crow laws, segregation laws, all these things that were very explicit that were problems. But I mean, my generation, we're discovering that it's systemic, it's institutional, it's kind of subdued, it's underpinning a lot of things, but it isn't out in the open to be seen as easily. So I think that's what, like you said, we're waking up to. I think that's what we're as a nation realizing, that it's under the surface.
And it took some terrible things to wake us up. That's what's so unfortunate. Mm-hmm. We took life for granted, and we take life for granted. And when you started to see, especially by way of the media, we didn't have social media when we were picketing. I sometimes wonder what could we have accomplished if we had social media back when we were picketing. Mm-hmm. But today you all have the advantage of social media. Mm-hmm. And you can see so many things taking place live. And when you see inequality taking place in real life, you can't help, if you're a human being, but feel something. Mm-hmm. If you look at some things and it doesn't touch you in a way that you want to make change, then I just feel like nothing will. But what we've been experiencing here lately, I think we all can say something is wrong with that picture. Mm-hmm. And so we got to change. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So where do you think that other sources of hardship for the Black community are coming from? Because we've talked about the systemic, the institutional that comes, from the nation as a system. But what do you think outside of that is causing hardship for the Black community?
Well, we've got to get our educational system up to par. Mm-hmm. We cannot assume that every student is still getting a quality education. And being an educator, I shouldn't have to go to one school and ask the question, why do you have computers in all of your classrooms and we don't have computers in all of our classrooms? Mm-hmm. We don't need to still look and ask the question, why do you have it and I don't have it? So when I look at the African American community, we're still wanting to have the same opportunities as every American. We still want to know that we're getting the best of the best as every American. At least the opportunity is there. It's hard for you to compete when you don't know what you're competing with. You know that you don't have some things. And to me, that's where we are in the African American community. We're still trying to catch up. And because we're trying to catch up, we're still behind in some areas, but the door has been open. All we ask for, the opportunity. And so that's what I'm seeing, that we are still trying to make those opportunities available for all Americans, regardless of race, creed, or color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing we've talked about in relation to this stuff is it seems like there is something of a lack of leadership within the current movement, right? So in your generation, you have many leaders, right? Like Clara Looper, like Martin Luther King, like Malcolm X and the Black Panthers, who kind of filled the void that pacifism left with kind of more enemies necessary. But what do you think could fill that leadership void in the present?
Well, we have leaders, but they don't have the voice like the Martin Luther Kings, to me. You don't have the voice. One of the leaders I will forever consider a leader, and that would be President Barack Obama. And the voice, you can only be a leader if you have followers. And at this point, President Obama is not purposely trying to be the leader, but for many of us, we accept him as our leader. I don't think Dr. Martin Luther King identified himself as a leader. The people made him the leader. And I think that's what's going to eventually happen, quote, them speaking on television. They have a platform and they are speaking the language of leadership. How they become leaders, the older you get, I think your followers start listening more. Right now, I think a lot of people are saying, oh, he's just young or she's young. But leadership to me doesn't have an age identified. Leadership, we see your heart. We see what you're all about. We see what your philosophy is. We see how you're operating. And once we get a feel and can connect with you, then we feel good about your leadership skills. Let me say it like that. So that's where we are now. We do have leaders. We have leaders in our churches. We have leaders, but we don't have that Martin Luther King that I see at this moment. But we do have leaders.
Right. Was there anything else you'd like to, any other information you think my generation could use?
Well, I like to tell young people, know what the Constitution has, because I try to share that Constitution, and it's pocket size. People ask when we were picketing, is it legal? Was it legal for you to picket back then? And even today, it is legal for you to march, but you have to know your Constitution to know that it is your First Amendment right to be able to assemble, freedom of speech, etc. If you don't know your Constitution, then you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities, because they can tell you what you can't do, but if you know your Constitution, you know what you can do. So it is important for young people to know, as I said, know your history, know what happened in the last years, so you can understand where we are today, so you can do better. But all of that, still know your Constitution.
Absolutely.
With all of that.
Absolutely, and I think that was part of the power in Martin Luther King's message, that he used the language of the Constitution, of the Declaration of Independence, to point out the hypocrisy that these are ideas we all agree are good ideas that need to be the basis, and they weren't being fulfilled.
And you can't select one part of the Constitution for you and something different for me. So know your Constitution and know your history. And I am so proud of you for what you are doing. And I consider you an upcoming leader, a leader today and a leader tomorrow. Okay?
Well, thank you very much. That's very sweet of you, Mrs Henderson.
I'm serious. Yes, I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Mrs Henderson. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and I'm glad we're able to Zoom.